I never thought I'd burn it all down over a single word. But that's exactly what useless does when it comes from the mouth of the boy you carried for 9 months in a body that still aches from the stretch marks. It wasn't just an insult. It was the key turning in the lock of every buried secret I'd swallowed for 23 years. The ones that kept his world spinning while mine ground to dust. And so, on a drizzly Tuesday in October, I signed the papers for the $2.1 million house in Bellevue, our forever home, he'd called it once, and wired the proceeds to an offshore account he'd never touch. Because sometimes the sharpest revenge isn't a slap, it's the slow starvation of entitlement. My name is Arya, and if you grew up in the shadow of the Pacific Northwest like I did, you know how the rain doesn't just fall, it seeps. It gets into the bones. The foundations. The lies we tell ourselves over morning coffee in kitchens that cost more than a year's rent in the city. I was 46 when it happened, the kind of age where women like me start vanishing from their own lives. Not dramatically. Not with a bottle of pills or a one-way ticket to Reno. No. We fade quietly. Like the salmon runs that used to choke the Duwamish but now barely trickle under all that concrete progress. Ethan was my miracle and my curse. Born when I was 23. Fresh out of community college with a nursing degree I barely used because his father, God, that bastard, decided fatherhood was just another boardroom negotiation he could walk away from.
Markus Halle.
Tech Wunderkind. The guy who dropped $50,000 on a prototype drone but forget our anniversary because disruption waits for no one. He left when Ethan was 2, citing irreconcilable visions for the future, which was code for banging his executive assistant in the Caymans. I got the house in the divorce. Ironic. Since it was his company's stock options that bought it, and full custody. Because who wants a toddler when you've got Silicon Valley swallowing your soul? I raised Ethan alone in that glass-walled monstrosity overlooking Lake Washington. Bellevue's the kind of place where tech bros mow their lawns with robots and nannies speak Mandarin to 3-year-olds. I worked double shifts at Harborview, stitching up the fallout from bar fights and overdoses, coming home to microwave dinners and Ethan's feverish hugs. He was brilliant. My boy, skipped 3rd grade, aced the SATs without prep classes, got into Stanford on a full ride. I poured everything into him. The college fund scraped from tips. The tutors I paid for by skipping my own dental cleanings. You're my rock, Mom, he'd say, hugging me before prom. His tie crooked like his dad's used to be. But rocks erode. By 23, Ethan was back from Palo Alto, interning at some AI startup in Seattle's South Lake Union, the epicenter of all that caffeinated ambition. He moved into the basement apartment I'd renovated just for him, $80K down the drain on soundproofing because boundaries. Mom. That's when the crack showed. Late nights coding. He'd stumble up for leftovers. Eyes glassy from Red Bull and whatever else the venture capitalists were pushing. This place is a museum, he'd mutter, kicking at the Persian rug Marcus shipped from Istanbul before ghosting us. Feels like we're living in your ghosts. I laughed it off at first. Mothers do that, swallow the barbs like they're vitamins. But then came the calls from his mentors, veiled warnings about entitlement issues and nepotism vibes because he'd name-dropped my connection to Marcus's old firm. Nepotism? From the kid who grew up on food stamps while daddy played billionaire? I confronted him one night over takeout pho. The steam curling like accusations. You're better than this,
Ethan.
Don't let bitterness eat you. He slammed his chopsticks down, broth splashing like blood on the quartz countertop. Bitterness? That's rich coming from you.
Mom.
You cling to this house like it's your identity. Dad left because you couldn't keep up, too small town. Too stuck. You're useless here. Arya. Just a placeholder in his shadow. Useless. The word hung there, heavier than the mortgage I'd refinanced 3 times to keep the lights on. I didn't cry.
Didn't yell.
I just nodded, tasting the bile of every overtime shift, every school bake sale where I'd smile through the pity. Placeholder, I echoed, voice steady as the fairies cutting through the sound. That night, alone in the master suite with its view of nothing but regret, I pulled out the shoebox under the bed. Old letters from Marcus, yellowed like bad decisions. And the one thing I'd never told Ethan, the secret that bound us tighter than blood. It started back in '99, when Ethan was barely toddling. Marcus was riding the dot-com wave, options vesting like lottery tickets. One night, he came home reeking of scotch and desperation, shoving a flash drive into my hands. Hide this, Arya. For us, it wasn't just code, it was the skeleton key to his company's fraud. Inflated user metrics, cooked books to lure investors. If it leaked, we'd lose everything: the house, the nest egg, Ethan's future preschool. I was 26, terrified, and so in love with the lie of our family that I did it. Buried the drive in a safety deposit box under my maiden name, told myself it was protection, not complicity. Marcus never came back for it. The scandal broke 6 months later. His firm imploded. Headlines screaming Tech Titan's House of Cards. He fled to Singapore, rebranded as a consultant, while I stonewalled the feds with a smile and a single mom sob story. They bought it. I kept the house, raised Ethan on the equity windfall, but the guilt, it festered. Every time he aced a test, I'd see Marcus's cunning in his eyes. Every time he charmed a teacher, I'd hear the echo of those falsified demos. I'd borne the crime for him, the perjury, the omissions, while he built empires on my silence. Useless.
No.
Ethan. You have no idea. The next morning, I called Lydia, my realtor from the divorce days. Sharp as a stiletto in Louboutins, Lydia Voss had sold half of East Side to crypto kings.
Arya Hale?
As in, the Hale House? Honey, that's a unicorn in this market. I told her to list it quietly. No signs. No open houses. Cash buyers only. And price it to move, $2.1 million. Firm. She whistled through the phone. You're serious? Ethan's down there. Isn't he? Dead serious, I said, watching him through the baby monitor app I'd never disabled. Irony's a bitch, as he scrolled TikTok in his underwear. Oblivious. By noon, offers flooded in. A hedge fund bro from New York. A Chinese investor eyeing flips. I accepted the first one. All cash. Closing in 2 weeks. Wired the down payment to a Cayman account I'd opened years ago, back when paranoia about Marcus's return kept me up nights. It wasn't much, $500K, but it was mine. Untouchable. Ethan noticed the moving vans 2 days later. I was boxing up the kitchen, humming an old Nirvana track to drown the what-ifs, when he exploded through the door, laptop under arm like a shield. What the hell? Mom? There's a truck outside. You firing the gardener? I set down a stack of plates, my mother's, chipped from too many family fights, and met his eyes. They were Marcus's eyes, stormy gray, calculating. Not the gardener. The house is sold.
Ethan.
Closing next Friday. His laugh was sharp, disbelieving. Sold? This is our home. You can't just, he trailed off, scanning my face. The boxes, The emptiness I'd already started carving.
Why?
We're not hurting for money. Dad's alimony. Stops at 25. I cut in. Voice like the snap of a latex glove. And it's not about money. It's about starting fresh. For both of us. Bullshit. He paced. Phone already out. Thumbs flying, probably texting his lawyer buddy from Stanford. This is emotional terrorism. You think yelling at me gives you the right to tank my life? I need stability for the pitch next month. Investors are flying in.
Stability.
The word twisted like a knife. I'd given him that every fake smile to the principal when his grades dipped, every yes to the car fund while I drove a 12 Civic with a duct-taped bumper. You called me useless.
Ethan.
Maybe it's time you felt what that really means. No safety net. No basement to crash in when the real world bites. His face crumpled. Then hardened, flip one, the wounded sun morphing into the entitled heir. You're doing this to hurt me. Because you're still pissed at Dad. This is your revenge fantasy. Isn't it? Pathetic. Pathetic. Another barb. But I let it slide off like Seattle rain on Gore-Tex. By evening, the house felt like a tomb. He slammed doors, blasted EDM from his room. But I sat on the deck with a glass of cheap Pinot, watching the lake lap at the bulkhead. The secret drive? Still buried.
But now,
with the sail, I'd have to move it. Confront the ghost I'd protected him from. That night, he tried the charm offensive. Slipped a note under my door. Mom, let's talk. I didn't mean it. Coffee tomorrow. I almost caved. Almost. But then my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Arya, it's Marcus. Heard about the house.
we need to meet.
The past isn't buried as deep as you think. My blood turned to ice. How did he know? And what did he want with the drive after all these years? Marcus's text was a grenade with the pin half pulled. I stared at it in the dim glow of my phone, the house creaking like it knew the skeletons rattling loose. Ethan was downstairs, probably plotting his next move, maybe calling his aunt in Tacoma for a couch-surfing bailout. But Marcus? After 21 years of radio silence, he crawls back like a bad virus update. I didn't reply. Instead, I drove to the bank at dawn, the safety deposit box cold and anonymous under fluorescent buzz. The flash drive was there, matte black, labeled Project Phoenix in his precise script. I pocketed it, heart hammering like I'd just hot-wired the vault. Back home, Ethan was waiting in the kitchen, showered and suited up for his internship, crisp Oxford shirt, the kind that screams future unicorn founder. He slid a latte across the island, extra foam, just how I liked it. Flip 2, contrition mode engaged.
Mom.
I Googled it. Real estate law in Washington. You can't sell without my consent if I'm a dependent. I sipped the coffee, bitter as truth. You're not a dependent, Ethan. You're 23. And it's my name on the deed. Sole owner. His jaw ticked. That tell Marcus had when deals soured.
Fine.
But think about this. I tell the buyers about the water damage from last winter. Or the asbestos scare in the attic. Deal falls through. You lose the commission. Blackmail from my own son. The air thickened. Rain pattering against the floor-to-ceiling windows like accusatory fingers. You'd sabotage your own home? For spite. For survival, he shot back, voice rising. This isn't just a house, it's leverage. My pitch deck includes family legacy, bullshit to hook the VCs. Without it, I'm just another bro with a CS degree. Leverage. The word echoed the drive in my pocket, heavy as sin. I could end this now, tell him everything, watch his world crack like the San Andreas. But no. Revenge isn't a confession, it's a curriculum. Then find new leverage. Ethan. The world's full of it. Or are you too used to mine? He stormed out, tires screeching on the wet pavement toward the 520 bridge. I exhaled, pulling out my phone. Dialed Lydia. Push the closing to next week. And screen the buyer, no tech money. Someone solid, like a teacher or a nurse. She chuckled. Arya, you're playing four-dimensional chess. What's the endgame? Teaching a lesson, I said, but my voice wavered. Because Marcus's shadow loomed larger now. I texted back. Where? When? No games. His reply was instant. Pike Place?
Noon.
The original Starbucks. Come alone. Pike Place Market on a Wednesday is chaos incarnate, tourists snapping fish-tossing pics. Street musicians strumming Dylan covers. The air thick with coffee and clam chowder. I spotted him at a corner table. Older but unmistakable, salt and pepper beard. Eyes like polished obsidian. He stood when I approached. Awkward half-hug that smelled of Aramis and regret. Arya. You look fierce. Save it, Marcus. Why now? He glanced around, paranoia etched in the lines around his mouth. The sale. It hit the wire services. Old colleagues are circling, SEC sniffing again. They think you still have it. The Phoenix Drive. My stomach dropped. It's gone. Destroyed years ago.
A lie?
But his flinch said it landed.
Good.
Because if it surfaces. He leaned in, voice dropping to that boardroom whisper. Ethan's future. Your pension. All collateral. Threat or plea. With Marcus, it was always both. We talked for an hour, surface stuff first, his consulting gig in Bali, my heroic single mom grind. But under it,
the rot.
He admitted slipping cash to Ethan last year, $10K for seed capital, without telling me. He reached out. Smart kid. Deserves a shot without your caution.
Caution.
Code for my refusal to let him gamble our stability on his schemes. You poisoned him against me, I said, voice steel. Made him think I'm the anchor, not the sail. Marcus's smile was a scalpel. Or maybe he sees you clearly. Clinging to grudges while the world's lapping you.
Join me.
Arya. We sell the drive to the right bidder offshore.
Clean.
Split it 3 ways. You.
Me.
Ethan. Fresh start. 3 ways. Like we were still a family. I stood, chair scraping like a verdict. Keep dreaming, Marcus. The only fresh start I'm giving is to myself. But as I walked away, the market's bustle closing around me like a noose. Doubt crept in. What if Ethan knew? What if he'd been playing me all along? Daddy's little operative? That suspicion festered through the week. Ethan oscillated like a pendulum. One day, apologetic texts, love you.
Mom.
Let's fix this. The next, passive-aggressive jabs, heard dad's in town. Coincidence. I ignored them, packing methodically, photo albums first, the ones with Ethan's gap-toothed grins, his baby shoes last. Tucked in a box labeled Memories, optional. Lydia called Friday, buyers a retired couple from Portland. teachers, salt of the earth. They adore the view. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. That night, Ethan cornered me in the garage, duffel in hand. I'm moving out. To Jake's in Capitol Hill. But this isn't over. I'm lawyering up undue influence. Emotional distress. You'll owe me half. Flip 3. From son to adversary. His eyes gleamed with that hale ruthlessness. Half the house, or half the truth. I pulled the drive from my purse, dangling it like bait. What do you know about Project Phoenix? Ethan? He froze. Color draining.
What?
Your father's fraud. I covered for him. Lied to the feds. Bore it all so you could have this. I gestured at the McMansion. Now echoing with ghosts. Lie of a life. Silence stretched, broken only by the hum of the Tesla charger he'd installed with my credit card. Then, a whisper, he told me. Last year. Said you were the weak link. Hoarding it to control us. Control. The accusation stung. But worse was the betrayal's depth. My son. Complicit. Scheming with the man who'd abandoned us. So this was a setup?
Push me till he crack.
Hand it over on a silver platter? Ethan's shoulders slumped. But his eyes, oh. Those eyes flickered with calculation.
No. I
wanted to protect you. From him. But yeah, maybe I tested the waters. Lies layered on lies. I pocketed the drive again. Get out.
Ethan.
Learn what burden means without a roof. He left at midnight. Door clicking like a guillotine. I cried then, alone in the empty house. The rain a relentless dirge. But dawn brought resolve. Marcus texted again. Ethan called. He's scared. Meet me tonight, Space Needle.
Top deck.
Bring it. For him. The needle loomed that evening. A lit-up syringe piercing the storm clouds. I went. Drive in my coat. Heart a war drum. Marcus waited by the railing. Wind whipping his coat like a cape. You came. For Ethan, I lied. What now? He turned. Smile predatory.
Now.
We burn it.
Together.
And the cycle. But as he reached for the drive, his phone buzzed, Ethan's face on the caller ID. Marcus answered. Voice syrup, son. She's here. Then, handing me the phone, talk. Ethan's voice crackled through static. Mom? Don't give it to him. It's a trap, he wants it for a new scam. Flip 4, Ethan. The double agent? Or Marcus? The puppeteer? The city sprawled below. Lights blurring in my tears. Who do I trust? I whispered. No one, Ethan said. Just yourself. The wind at the Needle's summit howled like the furies I'd unleashed, whipping my hair across my face as I gripped the phone. Marcus's eyes boring into me like lasers. Ethan's plea hung in the ether. Just yourself. But it rang hollow, laced with the same duplicity that had poisoned our bloodline. I smashed the screen against the railing, shards glittering like fallen stars over Seattle's glittering sprawl. Marcus lunged. Arya? What the? But I was already moving. Drive clutched in my fist, bolting for the elevators. He chased me down the spiral ramp, curses echoing off the steel like gunfire in a canyon. You stupid bitch. That's our ticket out. Our? As if 20 years of my sweat equity meant nothing. I burst into the lobby, tourists parting like the Red Sea, and sprinted into the night, rain slicking the monorail tracks. My Civic waited in the lot, engine roaring to life as his rental, a sleek Audi. Of course, screeched behind. The chase was pure pulp, me weaving through I-90's taillights. Wipers slashing at the downpour. Him tailgating like a demon from a 90s thriller. My phone exploded. Ethan, where are you? Dad's lost it. Then Marcus. Voicemail snarling, pull over. Or, I go public, tell the world what you did. What I did. The perjury. The cover-up. He'd fed me to the wolves to save his skin. And now twisted it back on me. I veered off at Mercer Island, tires hydroplaning toward the estate's back roads, ironic. Fleeing to the very house I'd sold. The sold sign glowed accusatory in my headlights as I skidded up the drive. Footsteps pounded behind. Marcus tackled me on the wet grass. Drive skittering into the bushes. We rolled, mud caking my scrubs. His hands clawing for my throat, not to kill, but to choke out the fight. Give it up. Are ya? For Ethan. For Ethan? I gasped, knee driving into his gut. He wheezed, rolling off, and I scrambled for the drive. Dirt-streaked but intact. Headlights pierced the dark. Ethan's Subaru. Pulling up with Jake at the wheel. Face pale as milk. Mom. The standoff crystallized. Me. Muddied and defiant. Marcus. Doubled over on the lawn. Ethan. Stepping out like a judge in jeans. Stop, Ethan barked. Voice cracking the storm. Both of you. Marcus straightened. Playing the patriarch.
So,
She's got the drive. We can fix this together. Ethan's gaze flicked to me. Stormy as the sound. Or we destroy it. End this hail curse. Flip 5, my boy. The wild card. I tossed him the drive. Your call, Ethan. He caught it. Rain beating on the plastic like tears. For a long beat. He weighed it, literally, in his palm, eyes darting between us. Marcus lunged again, but Ethan sidestepped, hurling the drive into the lake's inky maw. It vanished with a plop, ripples mocking our frenzy. Done, Ethan said, voice steel. No more leverage. No more lies. Marcus howled, charging. But Jake, solid, silent Jake, stepped in, squaring up like he'd scrapped in back alley bars. Back off.
Mun.
Marcus deflated, slinking to his car, engine fading into the night. This isn't over, he spat through the window. But it was. For him. Ethan turned to me, soaked and shivering. I called him. 6 months ago. Thought. Maybe he could fund my startup. Clean slate. Confessions spilled like the rain. How Marcus dangled millions. Promised mentorship, but demanded the drive as insurance. Ethan had played along. Testing me. Pushing buttons to force my hand. I called you useless to break the dam. Make you fight back. But I didn't expect. This, the sold house, the fractured family, the truth bobbing somewhere in the depths. Betrayal's layers peeled back, me covering for Marcus. Ethan scheming with him. All of us chained to the original sin. You used me, I said, voice raw. Like he did. Ethan's face crumpled. And you used silence to protect me. We're even.
Mom.
Or, as even as hails get. We stood there. The buyer couple's U-Haul rumbling up the drive like fate's eviction notice. They waved awkwardly, sensing the drama, but too polite to pry. Classic Pacific Northwest. We'll be out by morning, I told them, forcing a smile. Ethan helped pack the last boxes at dawn. silent labor broken only by the fairy horns in the distance. As the sun cracked the clouds, he hugged me fierce, bone-crushing.
I'm sorry.
For everything. Me too, I whispered. But burdens?
You carry yours now.
No house.
No handouts.
He nodded, eyes clear for the first time.
I will.
And maybe visit in your new place. Maybe. The word hung, ambiguous as the mist rolling off the water. I drove away first, Civic rattling toward a rented one-bedroom in Ballard, Harbor Views. $2,100 a month. Every penny earned. The $2.1 million? Half to a trust for Ethan Anonymous. Vested at 30. With strings, therapy. No tech for a year. Real work. The rest?
Mine.
A sabbatical from nursing. A writing class at Hugo House. Maybe even that novel about salmon runs and sunken secrets.
But the twist?
Weeks later, a package arrived. Ethan's startup pitch deck. Revised.
No legacy fluff.
Just code. Clean and bold. A sticky note. Burden shared is burden halved. Love. You're useless, son. I laughed, tears mixing with the eternal drizzle. Was it redemption? Or just another layer of the con? Readers, you decide. Forgive the flip-floppers. Or call it what it is, a family too broken to burn, but sharp enough to cut. In the end, revenge wasn't the sale or the splash. It was the mirror I held up, forcing us all to see the monsters we'd fed. And in America's grind, where houses are ATMs and secrets are startups, maybe that's the real hook. No one's the villain. We're all just chasing the next bid.